May Stevens with Mr. Right. Welcome back. It is the Country Viewpoint here on your colour of Country Life, Flow FM. It's time to take a look at agriculture and how things are going as far as our meat markets are concerned and our production lines for that matter as well. And joining me on the line is Angus Gidley-Baird, the Senior Analyst, Animal Proteins. He works with Rabobank. He's the Senior Analyst for Animal Proteins. Angus, lovely to have you with us. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, Ellis. Good to see you. Good to speak to you again.
Yeah, it's great to be back with you. We spoke a lot recently about how things are tracking across the month of October, but we've got this new news out about Australian beef production lifting against the backdrop of global decline. So effectively around the majority of the world, aside from in one major export country in South America and Australia, things seem to be a little bit dicey, but producers will be happy with how things are looking here in Australia, Angus.
Yeah, it's sort of a tale of two halves or two different markets effectively at the moment. We're looking at a US market with contracting production and very strong prices. Retail prices there have been increasing fairly consistently. I think it's the fourth consecutive record high for prices over there, and it's something like the last 10 months worth of rises from a retail price point of view. We're also seeing cattle prices go up there because of a reduced volume of cattle on the market as well. So a very strong US market, but then you look at the other markets and those heavily influenced by Asian import demand, experiencing weaker consumer markets and, generally an increase in production too. Australia's production has increased, Brazilian production's increased. So two separate markets playing out there. But it still provides some optimism, I think, for Australia longer term with that contraction in the US.
And just on the cattle markets, we've seen a 28% drop since June. So just expand on that for us.
Yeah, we had. And when I wrote this, that's where prices have got to. Encouragingly, though, we have seen prices lift in the last couple of weeks. A bit of rain through parts of New South Wales and Queensland, where some large cattle populations are, has just led to a lift in Australian cattle prices, which is encouraging. But, we're still heavily influenced by producer sentiment here that are going to drive cattle prices, I think, for the next couple of months. So while it's encouraging at the moment, I do recognise, if we get some dry conditions for a month or so, it might flip back the other way. Until we clear this supply chain and get the volume cleared and the demand at the other end, and that's starting to suck the problem through, it's going to be heavily influenced by producer sentiment at the moment.
We're used to speaking about volatility when it comes to wars that break out. We certainly have been talking a lot about how volatile things have become since the Ukraine-Russia conflict. But according to this media release out of Rabobank, the Middle East conflict will have no bearing on the meat markets.
No, the conflict going on in the Middle East at the moment, we don't expect to have any sort of major direct impact. They're fairly small in terms of global players, global importers in that market. That being said, though, if it does escalate and it does cover the wider Middle East area, we probably need to just watch the overall protein balance. They are big importers of sheep meat and poultry, and whether or not any trade sanctions or disruptions occur as a result of that, that might sort of disrupt the global protein trade, but from a beef point of view, fairly limited exposure into those markets, so not expecting any major changes.
Angus Gidley-Baird from Rabobank joining us on this Tuesday afternoon to talk all about what's happening in the Australian meat markets. More to come with him on the other side of this break. Shepherd with Daylight, and welcome back. You're listening to the Country Viewpoint here on your colour of Country Life, Flow FM. I've got Angus Gidley-Baird on the line with me. He's from Rabobank, and we're talking all about the fact that Australian beef production is lifting against a backdrop of global declines. Just looking ahead to the Australian summer, I did ask you this about a month ago, but just wondering whether things are any different looking at, consumer sentiment with regards to the sort of essentials when it comes to, the peak of the Australian holiday season, people wanting to entertain. Will that have a bit of or will that, result in a bit of an upswing with regards to how the market is looking right now in Australia?
Look, I'd probably have to say I hope so. I mean, we've got much more competitive prices. We've seen retail prices come off for both lamb and for beef, so that should help consumers. But obviously, it's a balance between what they're paying for the product and also how much they've got available and what their disposable incomes are and what the rest of the other costs in the system as well. But yeah, we're in a much better position from an attractive point of view for that consumer now with lower prices. But hoping that everyone decides that they should get out and enjoy some Australian red meat over the Christmas period would be great.
And you've said in this report that we're at the bottom of the market. Can you explain exactly what you mean by that?
Yeah, you're always a little bit cautious as an analyst trying to predict these things. But yeah, at the bottom of the market in the sense that we think that prices have probably got as low as we think they should. And we've seen them all start to tick up in the last couple of weeks. We're now talking on the East Coast. There are some, Angus feeder steers. You're talking $2.80 for those, which is a lift, I think, of about 30 cents or thereabouts in the last couple of weeks. So, some more impressive, and we've seen the East Young Cattle Indicator rise as well. It's nudging, getting back towards $5 now. So, some encouragement in terms of those prices. And I think from where we sit, in terms of the overall market itself, with the production volumes we've got, even with the demand situation we've got, the full supply chains, and we must be coming up against some capacity limitations from a processing point of view as well. But even that would suggest that prices shouldn't have fallen as low as they did. And now that we've got a little bit of a change in seasonal conditions, people thinking or feeling a little bit more confident, or maybe just having a better idea of what feed might be available over the next couple of months, it's provided a bit of a floor in the market, and it's started to correct itself.
And just expand on the trends to look out for next year as well, Angus.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a change in the trade flows. We've got the US contracting, we've got Australia and Brazil increasing. Some of those volumes that have been leaving the US going into those Asian countries, Japan, South Korea and China, might potentially provide opportunities for Australia to send product into that Japanese, South Korean market, also potentially into that Chinese market. So we've got to watch those trade flows, because we think there'll be a little bit of a shift in those over the course of the next year. We'll also have to continue to watch, where the sustainability matters play out too. There are a number of key events that are occurring through the course of next year, and obviously the commitments that companies and countries are making around that and how they work to implement those as we progress towards target dates.
Angus Gidley-Baird is the Senior Analyst for Animal Proteins at Rabobank. Always great to chat with you, Angus. Really appreciate it, and we'll speak to you again soon. Enjoy the upcoming festive period and take care.
Thanks, Alice. Always good to chat.
Angus Gidley-Baird is the Senior Analyst for Animal Proteins at Rabobank. Lovely to have him joining me on this Tuesday on the show. More to come as we look ahead to historical Australian anniversaries. That's up next here on the Country Viewpoint. Back soon.